Hi gang, Jonathan Eder at the piano lesson again, and today we're going to talk about the double diminished scale. What's that? Oh my God. And why would you need it? What's in it for you? What's the big deal about it? And also starting to apply our tetrachord knowledge. So when you start learning scales, they become a little unwieldy. You know, after you get past 4 notes, 5, 6, 7, 8, even 9 notes, it starts to become a little bit wonky in terms of spelling. It's hard to know just how to remember all this stuff. And so I want to take a look at a scale that might seem kind of exotic or unfamiliar and apply our tetrachord knowledge and make it familiar and make it something that's easy. You know, the tetrachord being a group of 4 notes that are easily digestible, and it's always great if you're looking at something unfamiliar to have something familiar to grab onto. And I'll show you how the double diminished is arrived at and different ways to think of the same thing. Remember, my definition of jazz, my very simple definition of jazz is taking a simple idea and looking at it in more than one way, developing some mental plasticity, okay? And jazz means other things too. To me, jazz is more about potential, the word potential. So not what it is, but what it could be or what it's becoming. You know, that's the exciting thing about jazz. So potential, open-mindedness, that's another example. Yes, there are very rigid definitions that have to do with style and history and all of that. But so I'm just going to kind of dive in here again. And here is our old friend, the whole tone scale. Okay, so trying to kind of spell the whole tone scale. Is that dark enough for you guys? I don't know if that's dark. Is that dark enough? Let's try. Oh, that's much darker. Let's do that. I think that's better. Yes, nothing but the best for my students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines on the staff, and C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp, which we'll also call B flat because it's the enharmonic spelling. Whoops, get it on the line there. B flat. So C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, which is also B flat. And I tend to think of it actually not so much. I tend to think of it in these three groups here. Although it is actually useful to think of it in terms of the augmented tetrachord group, overlapping 4 notes, major third higher. Those are what we might call conjunct. The word conjunct means different things in different situations. I'm not going to get too much into it, but basically the scales that share notes. So those 4 notes and these 4 notes, they share those 2 notes, right? Up a major third, okay? And then, you know, potentially this, sharing those 2 notes. You could think of it as these. That's a augmented tetrachord, and as well as that is an augmented tetrachord. Okay, and then if we did, let's say, go down an octave and go A flat, B flat, C, D. That's another overlapping augmented tetrachords. So you have two, let's say two, this entire scale, this whole tone scale can be thought of as 2 augmented chords. That's all the notes there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exact same notes. precisely the exact same notes: C, D, C, E, G sharp, D, F sharp, and A sharp, which we said was also B flat. Okay, but those notes are precisely the same as C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. Okay, you could look at them in a linear way. You could look at them horizontally or vertically. Now, if you take this group of notes and go up a half step, so now we're going to go D sharp, F. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to call this. I'm actually going to spell that differently. I'm going to spell it because it's a little easier spelling. I'm going to spell it E flat. Yeah. I'm going to spell it E flat, G, and B natural. E flat, G, and B natural. So you have this chord, C, E, G sharp, and this chord, E flat, G, B natural. And you put those together and you get this. Did I do that right? Yeah. That's the scale. All right? Yeah, that's it. So you have these notes, right? And you have these. All right, that's the sound. Let's kind of write that out now in a linear manner, in as a scale. Put it all together. So we'll just see C. I don't know. What did we say? We'll just call it D sharp for now. Okay. C, D sharp, E, and then we have the G, and we'll say A flat, and then the B natural, and then the C. C, D sharp, E, G, A flat, B natural, and C. All right. We could think of that as two harmonic tetrachords. You know, I was struggling with the spelling because, you know, typically when we spell things, typically when we spell scales, we kind of map that onto the major scale. So we think of it, is it a third, is it a fifth, is it a flatted fifth? It's a little hard to know, you know, precisely the way this scale sounds. It's very slippery, it's very mercurial, which makes it so interesting. And we talked about the word plastic. It makes it so it's really versatile in a lot of different situations. It's very hard to tell. It becomes increasingly difficult to tell where the tonic is, although we can hear it. But it's a little bit like looking into a hall of mirrors. Okay. We're gonna. Oh, terrible. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna respell the scale, so it's more of a stepwise motion, and we're gonna go. E flat, F flat, G, A flat. All right, so that is our harmonic tetrachord right there, right? Then we're going to make another harmonic tetrachord, G, A flat, B, C. Right, so we're going to take this G here, G, A flat, B, C. So that scale shares those two notes right now. Okay, I'm going to call them conjunct scales because they share the notes, you know, but let's not get lost in the terminology. And then the next one would be B, C, D sharp, E, B, C, D sharp, E. Okay, again, kind of overlapping tetrachords. So we have 3 harmonic tetrachords. The tetrachords are bound by the perfect fourth. These are all perfect fourths, perfect fourth, okay? And it sounds like this. It almost sounded like it wanted to end on the E flat, right? And I had noticed I had to spell it differently here. Here I spelled it as different. Here I spelled D sharp E. Here I spelled E flat, F flat, because I want stepwise motion, right? I want there to be a half step, a half step, C to D, B to C, an augmented second, C to D sharp, and then the half step. Okay? So there's an instance where you can conceive of the scale as tetrachords instead of thinking of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did we say it was? 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. 6 notes. There's 6 notes because there's two augmented triads. That would make sense. They're basically 6 notes. But rather than thinking of it in a linear way, because the quality of the scale, again, it's very kind of plastic. Now, when would you use it? Well, let's say a G7 chord. Maybe something. All right. Do you know that song? Blue Bossa. Maybe. And just being able to throw your hand at the keyboard, playing clusters of notes. That's one of the things that I really am very big on encouraging people to do. We tend to learn in a very formal way, thinking very rigidly about scales and chords, but the music doesn't know it's a scale. The music doesn't know it's a chord, okay? And neither does a listener, really. I mean, all the listener cares about is, how does it sound? But those are kind of crutches to help us, just our small little minds, right? Just make sense of it all. But after a while, it's a very animalistic event, making music. So after a while, you want to just kind of get it into your subconscious so you can just grab bunches. See, I'm just kind of grabbing. Now, it might sound, oh my God, that's awful. It might be awful. You could even think of them as thirds, in a sense, right? I mean, but. So I don't know, there's a quick little idea for you. But not to get bogged down, you know, I think you can take a lot of seemingly complex ideas and look at it through the lens of the tetrachord, and you'll see that it's more familiar than not. And then you'll learn it much faster. Now, of course, there's other ways to learn it. But you know, you should be learning in more than one way. I don't say should, but it's fun. It's fun to learn things in more than one way. And we all learn differently, right? Our brains process things differently. We hear things differently. And it's nice to have more than one approach, especially, you know, if you guys are teaching out there, right? You know, and you're trying to get across an idea to someone, you know, you want to have more than one way to do it, you know. So that's really, you know, the way to do it. The tune Blue Bossa, by the way, that I played, if you may or may not know, probably a lot of guys you do, but that happens to be in C minor. And the second half of the song is in the key of D flat major. It's a little unusual. There aren't too many songs that go from C minor to D flat major up a half step, and it's a 2-5-1. So the first part of the song is really basic primary chords, da 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 da, C minor, F minor, G7, C minor. Now, of course, you can use a substitute chord for the G7, D minor 7 flat 5, G7, C minor. Right? That's the kind of softens the landing a bit for that dominant chord, and then the 2-5-1 in D flat, E flat minor 7, A flat 7, D flat major 7, and then back to the 2-5-1, D minor 7, G7, and then C minor. I use C minor 6. It's a nicer, a little nicer sound. I should mention one of the finer points of 2-5-1, the concept of 2-5-1. Not everything is 2-5-1, of course, but the idea that in a major key, the 2 chord is a minor 7. And in a minor key, it is not a minor 7, and that's kind of important to know. So in the key of D flat major, right, the 2-5-1 is E flat minor 7, A flat 7, D flat major 7. You know, why is that? Well, because we get the chords from the notes in the scale. If you go up the scale diatonically, right, the 2 chord, E flat minor 7, I'll play it up here, but E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, right? That's E flat minor 7, all built on thirds, right? All notes from the scale. And the A flat 7, A flat, C, E flat, G flat, A flat, C, E flat, G flat, this is E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, right? And then D flat major 7, D flat, F, A flat, C. So there's a tiny little space there. D flat, F, A flat, C. Okay, so those are the diatonic. Those are the diatonic 7th chords in that key. In the key of C minor, okay, the 2 chord is not a minor 7. C minor, we're talking harmonic minor in general, okay, but the 2 chord, key C minor, of course, B flat, E flat, A flat, three flats, but you have now if you're looking at the 1 chord, you know, if you're using the harmonic minor, it would be that. If you're using the natural minor, it would be that, right? And you have to kind of use your ear to decide what you want to do. If you're using the melodic minor, it would be that. Isn't that interesting, right? So harmonic minor B natural, C, E flat, G, B natural, right? If you're using the natural minor scale, with the B flat, right? C minor, major 7, okay? C, E flat, G, B flat, right? That's C minor 7. And if you're using the natural minor, that would be C minor 6, C, E flat, G, A natural. So there's where that upper, the lower tetrachord stays the same, right? Upper tetrachord changes though. Of course, that would work too, potentially, but or, and descending, probably. 2 chord, if you go up the scale, is D minor 7 flat 5. It's not D minor 7, really, because there's no A natural in the key signature, okay? That's really the simplest reason for that. There's no C natural, D, F, A flat, C, D minor 7 flat 5, okay? That's the 2 chord, right, in the key of C minor, right? G7, G, B, D, F, G, B, D, F, B natural, right? Because that is, I'm going to use the word invoked. It's invoked. It's used only when we have the 5 chord, right? That's when when the B natural in the harmonic minor is used, and it's again what we call an artificial scale, right? The word natural in music can mean several things. So if you say the difference between an artificial and a natural scale is that the notes in the natural scale only use notes in the key signature, okay? That's separate from using the word natural when we're talking about A flat versus A natural versus A sharp, right? So whether or not a note is lowered or raised a half step, that's a separate category of you know, the semantics of music. So this, or you could do, right? Or you could do, one was landing on the minor 6, one was landing on the minor major 7, one was landing on the minor 7. They're all useful potentially, but I find if I have to pick one, I find the 6th chord is really most useful, interestingly enough. That's the 6th chord. That's minor 7. It's a bit tame. And then the minor major. I mean, that's okay, but for a chord that's so dissonant, like the minor major 7, it has an odd type of solidity about it. It's a very grounded. It kind of shouldn't be really, but it's very like, sounds like it's just it's there for the duration, and you're gonna need a pair of pliers to get rid of it. You know, the minor 6, it's a little bit more agreeable, even though it's also dissonant. And the minor 7, that's just sort of vanilla to me, you know, in that instance. I would almost prefer to hear something like if I'm using the minor 7 chord, I would prefer probably to voice it so that it was more of a quartal voicing. So voiced in fourths. Voiced in fourths. Oh, I dropped my pen. Ah! Sorry about that. I'm going to again write it in our treble clef, but C, F, B flat, right? And then maybe E flat, and then on the top would be the G. C, F, B flat, E flat, and G. So here you have fourth, 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 and then here you have a third, right? All of these are perfect fourths. All of those are perfect fourths. So fourth in the left hand. Probably not. The fifth kind of makes it just makes it sound a little bit too consonant for my taste. So having said that, once again we are up against the clock, and I'm going to have to kind of wrap it up soon. I really appreciate you guys' comments, though. It's very helpful for me to know what you're getting out of it, or what you're not getting out of it. But you know, thank you so much for the nice comments. I really appreciate that. But you know, feedback is great for both of us, so we know what you want to learn, what you don't want to learn, what's clear, what's not clear, and a lot of this stuff, you know, I've just come to on my own after years of teaching and experimenting and trying things, you know, and I just happen to have gravitated towards this, you know, the concept of tetrachords, because they really are. It really is something that isn't taught very much. It's sort of taught in a very token way. They mention it in passing, and then we go on to the next thing, and we think of thirds. We think of groups of 5 notes. We think of pentachords. We think of, but I even seem to remember hearing a discussion with Leonard Bernstein talking about the perfect fourth as being the most important interval. And I always found that interesting. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I think it was a discussion, I think it was talking about Beatles tunes, interesting enough, and how a lot of the Beatles tunes were modal. Ooh, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? You know, that's a whole nother discussion, you know. So in any event, I'm going to say goodbye. This is Jonathan Eder, signing off from the piano lesson, and I will talk to you guys soon. Okay. Adios.